And then out of nowhere, he just turns left into the desert. I'm like, where are we going? He's like, to the race. I'm like, okay. So I've been to a lot of places around the world, and I've been very blessed to see lots of cultures and different avenues and different racing. But one thing I had never seen was the legendary Dakar Rally, which is not in Dakar anymore. It's in Saudi Arabia due to, sadly, some issues back in Dakar. So they move it to Saudi, and in 2019, Saudi Arabia gets way more open about tourism, and they want a lot of people to come. The tail end of 2019, I had the opportunity to go to a car show. And it was kind of like them trying to do SEMA in a way and do this big auction and all this kind of stuff. And when I got there, it was pretty chaotic. I got to see kind of the ins and outs of the country, some of the laws of the country, and you got to be respectful of some of the cultures you're not familiar with. So it was an adjustment. Fast forward to last year, I get an email. Hey, you want to come back to Saudi Arabia? I was like, I don't know. I kind of felt like I might have saw everything, right? Because I went to Riyadh. I saw the legendary history stuff like that I would be interested in because I love history. I got to see where, Saudi took over, like the actual family took over and all that kind of stuff. I was like, okay, cool. I saw it. Been there, done that. They're like, no, you get to go to Dakar. I was like, oh, because the flight's brutal, right? Flight's brutal. All that's pretty brutal. Like, I don't know. Where are we going? And I go, well, we're going to go to this town called Bisha. I go, where's Bisha? So I pull out the atlas that's Google Maps, right? And I zoom in. And Bisha is quite a bit south of Riyadh. And Yemen's here and Bisha's here. I'm like, I don't know if I want to go all the way down there, right? So I fly to London Heathrow, get on a plane, then fly all the way to Saudi Arabia, fly all the way to Riyadh, then land in Riyadh, then transfer to Saudi Airlines, and then from Saudi Airlines, land in Bisha. So we get there, and we have several people come pick us up, some people from Ford Performance, now known as Ford Racing. They went back to Ford Racing, but at the time it was Ford Performance. And just absolute characters. They were wonderful, super accommodating, really laid back. And they take us to the hotel. We get checked into the hotel. Everything goes pretty smooth. We leave, and then we go to the actual pit area of Dakar. And it is such a fascinating pit. You have all these different eras of rally vehicles and off-road vehicles. Lots of Group B stuff I never thought I'd see. Audi Quattro 5-cylinder rally cars. I'm like, okay, it was worth coming out just to see that thing, But Ford this year had really, really gone headfirst into Dakar. They built this completely original truck. It was a Raptor T1, and it's this badass looking thing, right? It's got all the bells and whistles. You see this thing jump, it does nothing, right? It just does everything correctly, and it's Carlos Sainz Sr. driving one of them. So, yes, Carlos Sainz from Formula One, his dad. His dad has an incredible racing history. So if you don't know that, go look it up. It's awesome. And he sounds just like him. And he has that cadence of his speaking and everything. I'm like, yep, that's Carlos Sainz. Wild. And we get there, interview Carlos Sainz, was really neat. And I just walk around the pit, and I'm just looking at how this whole place is run. The logistics are insane. I think that's the number one thing that impressed me the most was they have an entire food hall that they tear down after a stage is done. And this is like a massive, massive tent in operation. So every time they had to change stages, they're up, down, all the way along the race. And I was like, this is a cool experience. This is really neat to learn about. And so it was time to go watch some racing. Well, how the heck do you find it? You don't. There's no cell signal half the time because you're in the middle of nowhere. And so you just have to go off of, oh, here's some GPS coordinates. Let's try to get there. I had this incredible guide, originally from Sudan. Really, really crazy story by him. Lived in the UAE, then came over here to be our guide. And he was just a phenomenal guy, and he knew exactly where to go everywhere. I'm like, how do you know where to go? He's like, he just does. And so we'd be driving down the highway, and it's just wild to think, Saudi is a huge country. And you're driving, it's just endless desert. And you're like, yeah, you're stuck out here, you're screwed. You're screwed. There's nothing you can do. vast highway, just endless desert. And then out of nowhere, he just turns left into the desert. I'm like, where are we going? He's like, to the race. I'm like, okay. And we start seeing choppers. And very much like in Baja, if you go to the Baja 1000, which I've been blessed to go to that, where I got the water poisoning, the famous water poisoning, power through that, but it was an amazing experience. Some of the more wealthy teams will have a chopper following them and giving them coordinates and giving them guidance and saying, hey, go here, go there, etc. And as soon as we start seeing the choppers, like, okay, we're getting close. Finally, we get to the point. Out of sheer coincidence, there's kind of an area to hang out right here where you sit on the ground. And then there's this really beautiful like Dakar trophy thing. And I didn't know if it was like decorative or something. Well, it's because they were doing the official signing from the government to the organization at the FIA to renew Dakar. They were doing it right there in the middle of the desert. And they were just like, showing it like, look, everyone. I was like, oh, okay. So we get there and I look over at our friends and I go, so do they show up? They're like, it'll be a little while. I go, okay. I'm walking around and I go, I'm going to get a really cool shot of them, kind of from above. I stand on top of like this big hill with a bunch of rocks, try not to fall. And I look over, I'm like, I don't know why, but this guy next to me looks kind of familiar. But he had this massive bodyguard and then another bodyguard. I was like, I don't know who that is, but I don't know why. I believe it was he's either prime minister or president or insert title here of Czechia. He was just like, yeah, I just really like off-road events and racing. I was like, okay. Hey, it's so funny how in the middle of the Saudi desert, he was just like right there. So finally the Fords come through and it's cool because they're some of the only like modern V8s. So when you hear them coming and the Coyote power they use, they rev to crazy high because they have, modified heads and all that kind of stuff. It's this scream that you just hear coming. And so I would get ready and they just blow by. And the speed they're going is just obnoxious. And they're jumping and all this without even thinking about it. The car control is incredibly impressive. But then you would have some other teams like Toyota. They're using turbocharged engines. So it's just really neat to see everybody's different way of doing things for a similar result. And the Ford team did pretty good. But then Carlos Sainz, I think, got in an accident and they were out of the race, which was a huge bummer. But then we get back to the main pit area after a long day of watching racing, which was just incredible. And they go, hey, tomorrow you're going to sleep in the desert. I said, okay, I guess I'm going to sleep in the desert. And so the next day we watched some more racing, very similar to the first day. Don't run into the Prime Minister of Czechia this time. We go out and what's kind of interesting is it's not like we had to like set up tents. They already had them set up. So it's I believe it was like, oh, if you got this package, you could like sleep in the desert and like all that. We're being accommodated too. And we get there and it was just so funny because we're hanging out. You can see every star in the sky and it starts getting cold. Desert's cold, and we're all packing up and sitting around a fire and hanging out. It was just kind of funny because you don't realize like when you're in a desert environment with a bunch of tents and you could hear a pin drop, you'll make conversation with your friends. And then you're just like, well, I'm going to go to bed now. It's like, well, okay, I'm going to go lay down now. Like there's no like Irish goodbye, right? It's just like, all right. So we go out and then wake up in the morning and it was like the most memorable part of the trip because when we got to the tents, it was nighttime. And it was like, this is the Saudi desert. You know what I mean? It was kind of what you imagined. And it was just vast forever and walking around going, all right, we're going to go watch some more racing. Then we eventually watched more racing, got to do some off-roading, which is great. I got to drive the Raptor R in the Saudi desert, which was amazing. And in the convoy, we had Ranger Raptor, Bronco Raptor, a normal one, and then the Raptor R. And it was just the coolest thing, because we're doing what these vehicles were meant to do. And we're not just mall crawling, It was like, okay, these things are crazy capable. And we're cooking pretty good, right? We're going over dunes and all this kind of stuff. It was a ton of fun. It just really made me go, okay, this was worth the pain in the butt flight. This was definitely worth it. And we were only there like 72 hours, right? It's like a 3-day trip. It was in and out. We got our interviews. We watched our racing. We did some driving. We go home. But on the way home, flights get delayed. We all got stuck in the Riyadh airport together. But I think one of the most impactful things was I was standing outside of the hotel in this small town. I go for a walk and it's just quiet. And I walk back, and one of our guides came up, and he was, I believe, from Saudi. And he said, I watch you all the time. I was like, even in the Middle East, it's one of those things where, that YouTube and social media, it's global, right? It is, but you're kind of in your bubble. You're kind of like US, Canada, Mexico, and some of Europe. And then you go places like there and you're like, wow, that's just incredible. And the funniest thing is his favorite videos were some of like the videos I dread. It was one of those things where you put all this work into a video and it didn't do very well, but he's like, oh my God, I love those. Those are my favorites. And then we took a selfie together and then went off to the airport, and airport security strict. Gotta be careful through there. Get to the airport. We hang out in the Riyadh airport for I think it's 10 hours, right? Because of just complications. Finally make it home and come back to the lush green Georgia. It's just a different planet. It's a different world. But Dakar is something that I think with guides and the right people and the right accommodation, it's worth seeing. I think it would be kind of difficult to go on your own. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's more so that a lot of the times we wanted to go see the racing and it'd be like, okay, where do we go? That's not a dig. It's just where we were. I mean, you're talking about thousands of miles of racing, and these legs are insane. How far they're going through this desert from the red dunes of the north, right, to the more southern part of the country, which I would equate more to Nevada. It was really interesting because I thought it was going to be all red sand, which I saw in my first trip. On my first trip to Saudi, I got to do the stereotypical Nissan Patrol dunes and all that kind of stuff. And that was the stereotypical red sand we imagine, right? The big dunes that go on forever. And it was really neat. And it was so funny. In some of these Nissan Patrols, they would open up the back and it would be an entire rig for tea. They just pull out the whole thing and they just made tea on the spot. It was very much like a culture thing, here, have some. I think for some reason I expected the desert to be the same way, in the southern part. But when I was in the southern part, I felt like I was kind of in the United States. Geography, it was kind of a mix between, the Middle East, but also Johnson Valley, where King of the Hammers is, combined with Nevada. And it was just a super unique landscape because it just wasn't these vast dunes that they start on, right? And they just kind of come all the way down the country. It was definitely a memorable experience, but man, it was a tiring one.
Auto Tempest is the best way to search for your next car because they compile all the results from all over the internet, all the major listing sites into one place with one search. We've always loved them for that, but it's getting even better because they're now beta testing their new simple search, and you can access that right now by using the link in the description below or the QR code on your screen. So gone are the days of endless drop-down menus of year, make, model, trim, all the things, unless you want to, because it is still there. But now you can just type in one simple search string and let Auto Tempest do the rest. We've always loved that Auto Tempest lets you get the results from everywhere without having to go to each site and search for the same thing over and over again, but now they're making it even easier with their simple search. So check them out now to thank them for their support of VINwiki and find your next car on Auto Tempest.